Hello everybody, this is 𝐀𝐦𝐿𝐴. We sent you an email Monday morning anticipating there would be lots of questions about tariff issues. If you haven't already read our email, I'd encourage you to look at that because I think that will provide valuable information for you. One of the things we said in the email was that we felt that Mexico would capitulate very quickly, and they did, prior to the early afternoon on Monday. But a lot of fear out there, I think, on tariffs that is absolutely unneeded and unnecessary. So I want to talk a little bit more about them. First, a question that's come up a lot: are low U.S. tariffs, what we have now, hurting American workers and businesses? And the answer is unequivocally yes. You know, the U.S. economy was built on innovation and on continuing efficiency and highly competitive markets. But for decades, American workers and businesses have faced mounting challenges, and that's due to ultra-low tariff rates. We all want free trade, but we need free trade and fair trade. Free trade advocates argue that low tariffs keep consumer prices down, which you guys are hearing a lot on the airwaves today. But the real cost of maintaining low tariffs is far, far greater. And those costs include declining wages for American citizens, completely obliterating and lost American jobs. I mean, look at the textile industry, or look at the furniture manufacturing industry on the East Coast, primarily in the Carolinas. Those went away over the space of a decade. And a shrinking industrial base. That's the real cost of ultra-low tariffs. While international trade's essential, the near total absence, or let's say the low level of tariffs in key industries, in key markets internationally, has caused other countries to send us a flood of cheap imports, many times subsidized by the governments of the countries that we're importing from. That undercuts American manufacturers. Import competition has led to many factory closures, a lot of wage stagnation where American workers are really not being paid what their labor should require, and even worker displacement. A direct comparison shows that competing nations, and when we say competing, I mean adversarial nations like China and sometimes the European Union, maintain much higher tariff rates on goods we sell them, and that creates an uneven playing field for U.S. business. Manufacturing job losses have been a real problem in our country for many, many years. When our country allows foreign goods to flood U.S. markets at these artificially low prices, then you're going to lose domestic production. Domestic producers struggle to compete against those low prices. They go out of business, and then you're literally sending American jobs overseas. Declining wages is a real problem. We see this with the influx of illegal immigrant labor as well, where people are happy to work for less than standard wages, which cost the American-born citizens many job opportunities. With fewer stable manufacturing jobs being available because we've literally shipped them overseas, American workers are also pushed into lower paying service positions, or maybe other manufacturing jobs that are lower paying. That contributes to wage stagnation in the middle class. Guys, this is something that really bothers me. I feel my life's been a big reflection of what is truly the American dream. But I've got a lot of young people I have the privilege of working with and know that don't have the ability to access that dream. They'll get a good job at age 22, 23, but they don't make enough to go out and buy a house in today's economy. I did. You did. So these declining wages are a major issue, and one way we can stop them is by insisting on not just free trade, but fair trade. Trade deficits and economic imbalances are really affecting our economy. When you have a trade imbalance, then you're not selling as much to our competitor nations as they're selling here. That widens the gap in import-export, and that drains economic resources, and it affects the valuation of the dollar. I want you all to think about this. We're seeing the BRIC countries band together to try to overcome Americans' dollar being the international reserve currency. The BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These countries have banded together to try to replace our currency as the reserve currency of the world, and that has weakened the American dollar. On Monday morning, with the threat of tariffs being put on countries who are not treating our nation fairly in trade, what happened to the dollar? It soared in valuation. Strong dollar, strong country. So is free trade really free? Proponents of free trade, pure free trade, just argue that we shouldn't have any tariffs because then consumers benefit from lower prices. But remember, those savings, those small savings, come at a hidden cost. Your friends losing their jobs, your family being displaced, having to move out of state, and an erosion of this nation's industrial strength, meaning an erosion of our ability to provide goods for our own citizens. Economic research would tell us that persistent trade imbalances can really hurt our national resilience and even the ability to defend ourselves. That makes the U.S. ever more dependent on foreign supply chains and then less capable of responding to real crises like COVID. Remember supply chain disruption, folks? We're still feeling some of the effects of that. And during the worst of COVID, when America dared to ask the Chinese if the virus had begun in China, we were threatened by their health minister to cut off vitally needed drug shipments manufactured in China and shipped from there to the U.S. We need to regain control of these vital trade imbalances. The question really isn't whether trade's good or bad. It's about that balance. Other major economies recognize that. And maybe that's why they've implemented very strong protective measures to keep their domestic situation economically stable. China and the European Union use tariffs to protect key industries or to abuse their trade here in the U.S. The U.S., by contrast, listens to people who scream free trade, not understanding that free trade is not always fair trade, and they prioritize these short-term price advantages over long-term economic health for the world economy and for our economy. So I know this brings up a lot of questions, and I feel very strongly about what I've expressed here. I also feel strongly about the thoughts I expressed in an email you received from me this past Monday morning. We're already seeing very, very positive benefits to the U.S. from taking the stance that the Trump administration has taken towards free and fair trade and the potential use of tariffs for countries that abuse our trade relationship. At Spectrum Financial, we understand that economic policies like tariffs have real implications for your portfolio. Navigating financial markets really requires understanding these broader forces, from trade policy to global competition. We're remaining committed to helping you and all of our clients stay ahead of that curve and adapting our strategies to this really changing rapidly economic landscape. When America's workers and industries thrive, the entire American economy benefits. It was time to rethink trade policy. This administration's doing it. And you and our countrymen are going to be the beneficiary of that. Hang in there. Remember, sometimes you got to go through a little bit, I do mean a little bit, of short-term pain for long-term gain. God bless.